A note to the listeners, episode 59 contains some explicit language and mature content. Word nerd, wordsmith, wordy, wordless. Oxford Dictionary says a word is a single, distinct, meaningful element of speech or writing, used with others or sometimes alone. We say each one matters. No extra words is literature, minimalist style. And we're getting you right to the story.
The attractive brunette, her looks now ruined, speaks. You trust me? After 48 years? My legs aren't the only thing giving out. Yesterday, I forgot my grandson. Today, I lost my keys. Back then, I lost direction and drifted. I quit school. Something was happening in San Francisco, so I went there. Something was happening in LA, so I came back. My mom said I'd find myself. My dad said the heck with finding myself. I'd better find a good husband or a good job because he wasn't going to pay for my crap anymore. So I took a job at the Ambassador, waitressing. Not ideal, but it was a start. My boss, the Grand Mr. Maitre d' Hotel, this snap your linens and tuck those sheets type of guy named Carl, said he'd teach me the fine art of hospitality. Watch, he said. Wait, and you too can do what I do. I watched, and I learned how to fold a napkin, roll a service, refill a ketchup bottle, and how to flirt. I flirted for tips, favors, advantages. This is what I thought hospitality was. I practiced on the Mexican busboys. And why not? What better prize? Those Michelangelo Adam's apples and those little asses. Perfect saddles of hips peeking out from between denims and t-shirts. And what hair! Curly and thick and black. I pretended to be in love. And most pretended back. Adios, mi amor. Have you seen the stars tonight? And they'd try to get me to the alley with them. Sometimes I went, but it was never more than kisses and cigarettes. I thought I was getting ahead, until one of them, Juan, took me seriously. Flat out asked me to marry him. I laughed. Like I wouldn't be caught dead in his church. Like I'd give him sex, but never my hand. He shook his finger at me and said, "Be nice, mi amor. You give nice, you get nice." And then he never talked to me again. A lot of the people in the kitchen stopped talking to me, too. Treated me like a tease. It was sort of a shock. The night Bobby Kennedy died, that's where I was. In shock, in the embassy ballroom. I was keeping my mouth shut, smiling my sweetest smile. I served wine and beer and the occasional Tom Collins. No more of the flirt. I listened when anyone spoke. I nodded my head no matter what they said. Great Society, Ku Klux Klan, Vietnam. It didn't mean much. Just so many drunks, mouthing off about moral crisis. So many messed up military haircuts and wannabe long hairs slapping backs and punching guts for peace. When I saw him, I suppose I needed a break. He reminded me of Juan, light blue sweater, skinny blue denims, and a black mop of hair. Certainly out of place in this land of thin ties and crisp suit coats. He was sitting in a chair, half-full highball in his hand. He winked. I smiled. And part of me felt forgiven. That's why I think I sat by his side, said nothing. But I unnerved him. I think he thought I would ask him to leave. He shot me a look and said, "I'm a voter. I have a right to be here. Why else would I be here?" Counted another hard-won lesson. He frowned, finished his drink. I pointed to my friend's glass and said, "You need another?" He softened, shook his head and stared down at his hands. "I need coffee," he said to the empty glass. "Think Kennedy's going to win?" I asked. "With malice aforethought, that son of a bitch," he said. His eyes followed the line of my legs up to my face, then dropped again. There was a slip of ice in the bottom of his glass, and he rattled it. "You from Mexico?" I asked. His head swayed. He was shaking something loose. "Tijuana?" "Jerusalem," he said. "Mandatory Palestine." Such a stupid girl. I'm sure I wondered what was mandatory about Palestine. His head swayed again. with malice and a forethought, I suppose. I touched him on the knee. "Let me get you that coffee," I said, and stood. This time, his head dipped, he smiled. I took him through the double doors and into the pantry's anteroom. I pointed to the urn in the corner. Like most free things, the hotel kept it secret. My friend ran his index finger down the curve of the shiny silver, as if it were a human face. "Do you believe in romance?" he said to the reflection of me in the metal. I must have nodded. "That one man can save a people?" He no longer looked at my reflection. "I like my coffee with cream, and lots of sugar," he said. "I like it the same way," I said. Poured him a cup. "Thank you," he said. "You have sharpened my senses and saved my life." I blushed, left him there, went back to the ballroom. Kennedy was up on stage in the middle of thieves and rioters and football players. He said something about the Vietnam War and something about people who suffer from hunger, and then, "Mayor Yorty has just sent a message that we have been here too long already," and then, "So my thanks to all of you, and now it's on to Chicago." He flashed a V for victory and swiped his bangs from his face. When I saw that Kennedy was going through the kitchen, I crowded in with the rest. I got to see my boss, Carl, pull America's new savior through the madness, releasing his hand only now and then to shake this busboy's hand, that cook's, pulling him past the steam trays, the ice machine. That's when I saw my friend, the boy whose life I'd saved, whose senses I'd sharpened. He rose up, pulled a gun from his skinny blue denims, and shot. I don't want to remember the rest, how they wrestled my friend to the steam table, the other shots that were fired, the part of Kennedy's lips as he went down, as if he were saying, "Oh, hello." Juan gave Kennedy a rosary, although Kennedy couldn't hold it. It kept falling to the floor. Juan persisted. Hospitality requires that, I suppose. I quit the next day, finished school, went to college. Nobody ever tried to find the attractive brunette Sirhan spoke to that night, and frankly, I'm not sure why you sought me out now. What did it matter? What does it? I can't change anything, couldn't then. "May I get you another cup?" "Black, right?" "See, I can remember some things."
Hello there! Welcome to No Extra Words, the Flash Fiction podcast. My name is Chris Baker-Dersch. I'm your producer and editor. Fun time today because I get to be a listener like you guys. All the audio is recorded by the contributors, and I'm following along just like you all. Nostalgia's a bitch, isn't it? I mean, you can go back to places, but who says you want to, and nobody promises it's going to be a good experience. The attractive brunette, her looks now ruined, finally speaks is the name of Nan Wigginton's story that kicked us off. I love that she did her own audio on this story because I do literally find myself sitting in this diner listening to this woman recollect all these years later, wondering why somebody finally wants to know. It's really, really hard to tell a fictional story about an event that is so etched in people's brains. The assassination of Robert Kennedy happened a decade or so before I was born, but I've seen the video, probably you have seen the video, so to be able to do that fiction where you've done your research so you know what happens, but the character still gets to reveal a little something, job well done to Nan. Coming up next, James McGrath Morris reads Espresso Milkshakes in Netherlands, about a young man who also goes back to visit a place some 40-odd years later, and we'll listen and see how well that goes for him. I will see you guys next week here on No Extra Words.
The engine of my economy rental car whines as I coax it up the 2,800-foot incline of Route 119 that twists its way up through Boulder Canyon from the Front Range to Netherlands, Colorado. 41 years have passed since I last climbed this road to the Lilliputian mining town. My hair was long, my blue jeans torn, and my backpack unlikely to survive another hitchhiking trip. My last ride dropped me off in Boulder, but I wanted to go up into the mountains, so I put my thumb out again. A Volkswagen Beetle halted about 50 feet past me. I ran to it. 2 girls. It didn't surprise me. I only got rides from chicks when there were 2 in a car. The one in a ragged blue jean shorts and a peasant blouse, her chestnut hair falling in a swoop across one eye, said her name was Nina. "Where you headed?" Nina asked. "Netherlands," I said, having seen a road sign with its name, but knowing nothing of the place. "Great," she bubbled. "That's where we're going." She turned and thrust an 8-track tape into the player. "What will you do when you get lonely and nobody's waiting by your side?" crooned Eric Clapton. Ever since when Layla played on the radio, I've thought of craggy rocks punctuated by blue spruce and fir trees. That night in Netherlands, Nina put me to work in her father's diner. No sign of her mother, in return for letting me set up a campsite on a piece of land they owned overlooking Baker Reservoir. I took orders, carried plates of hamburgers, and cleared tables. As the 11 p.m. closing time approached, a customer with a pot-driven reason for sweets asked for a milkshake. "What kind?" "I don't know, but not chocolate, strawberry, or vanilla," he said. "Okay, I know just what you want." I took out a jar of Medaglia d'Oro instant espresso that I kept in my pack and poured 3 heaping tablespoons into a blender with vanilla ice cream and milk. The stone customer loved it. So did Nina and her father, who both insisted I make another batch for them. When we locked the place, Nina and I stood outside, bathed in the purple light of the diner's neon sign. Neither of us moved towards or away from each other. She raised her hand to my cheek and then brushed my hair back behind my ear. "Wow," she exclaimed, "you've got old ears." "Beckwith-Weidman syndrome. What's that?" "A genetic disorder." "I'm fine," I said, "but most of it who have it are fine. For me, it's just a creased earlobe." Far out. The buck moon of July and its twin on the water's surface illuminated the field when I spotted Nina cross it and come to my little encampment. "What's it like to travel?" she asked. "I don't know. It's neat, but it can get old, especially when you want to shower or clean clothes." "All I want to do," she said, "is get the fuck out of Netherlands." I trembled with nervousness when she kissed me and pushed me back onto my unzipped sleeping bag. "Have you got protection?" "Sterile. No sperm swimming around me. Beckwith-Weidman." The absence of a Trojan in my wallet was not going to keep me from losing my virginity that night. When I woke, Nina was gone. I looked for her back at the diner, but she wasn't there either. I wrote a note promising I would come back someday and that I hoped she would be gone. As I make the last turn now out of the canyon, Netherlands looks remarkably pretty much as I'd left it those many summers ago. I pull into a spot in front of the diner and grab a seat at the counter. I catch sight of Netherlands espresso milkshake on the board above. I order one and a burger. "Passing through?" asks the guy behind the counter. "Yep." "How's the burger and shake?" he asks. "Good. The shake's terrific." "Yeah, my mother insisted we keep it on the menu." "Really?" "We've always had it on the menu as long as I can remember, and I'm hitting 40 this year." "This is your mother's place?" "Was. She's gone now." "Oh." "Yeah, she was killed in a car accident 2 years ago. Been running the place by myself since." He bends down to retrieve a stack of dishes from under the counter. As he does, he pushes his thick hair back, and I see his ear.
Thanks for listening to the No Extra Words podcast. For more information on today's stories and contributors, or to learn how to submit your own work, please visit us at noextrawords.wordpress.com. The best support you can give the show is to recommend us to your family and friends. See you next time.